CEOs and CMOs, listen up. This video is for you. CMOs, this one's going to hurt a little bit for you. But CEOs, a part of it is also on you, on the way you hire CMOs. Well, let's get into it. Did you know, according to Harvard Business Review, 80% of CEOs don't trust or are unimpressed with their CMOs? And matter of fact, I looked into it to see who has the highest life expectancy of all the C-suite executives. Who makes it the longest? Watch this. CEOs make it to 8 years according to Korn Ferry. CFOs, 5.1 year. Chief HR officers, 5 years. Chief Information Officers, 4.3 years. You know who's last place? CMOs. You only last 4.1 year. Why is that? Matter of fact, did you know how many companies have just completely gone rid of CMOs? They're like, we don't need them anymore. Watch this. These companies are not hiring CMOs anymore. United Parcel Service, out. Etsy, we don't need a CMO. Walgreens, don't need a CMO. Hyatt Hotel, Johnson & Johnson, Uber, we don't need a CMO. Why is that? Then I was curious to know what position typically ends up becoming the CEO of the company. Is it finance, CFO? Is it marketing, CMO? Is it operations, COO? What is it? Who makes it to the CEO position of Fortune 500 companies? Let's take a look at this. Spencer Stuart found that over the past 20 years, 85% of S&P 500 CEOs came from 4 roles. Ready? CFO, COO, divisional CEO, and what the firm refers to as leapfrog leaders or people promoted from a level of management below the C-suite position. 85%, we didn't hear CMO one time, right? So I said, how about CMOs? How often do marketing executives become CEOs of companies? Take a look at this. Based on publicly available data, this is from McKinsey & Company, we estimate that only 10% of Fortune 250 CEOs have a marketing experience, and only 4% were previously held a CMO-like role. 4% of 250, that means 10 out of 250 were former CMOs. In contrast, more than 70% of Fortune 100 companies have an operations or finance background. Now, some of you guys may be like, Pat, I'm a freaking CMO. You're beating me up. I'm watching this video with my CEO. Give me a freaking break. Give me something. Like, has there ever been a CMO that became a CEO? The answer is yes. Do you know the current CEO of Starbucks company was a former CMO? He got promoted to CEO just a couple months ago, April of 2024, Brady Brewer. Brian Nicole is the CEO of Chipotle. Russell Weiner is the president, USA of Domino's Pizza. Mary Beth West is the chief growth officer of Hershey's Company. We're going to come back to that chief growth officer because that's what a lot of CMOs want to be called nowadays. They don't want to be a CMO. They want to be a chief growth officer. So if you're a CEO right now or a CMO watching this saying, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed, stick around. We're going to talk about the mistakes you make, CEOs, and we're going to talk about the mistakes you all make as CMOs. So if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let me get right into it. By the way, before I break down to you, according to Harvard, the 3 different types of CMOs, let me talk about the mistakes CMOs make first. Here's a couple things you CMOs make the mistakes. 1, sometimes the whole reason why, CEOs, 80% of them don't trust CMOs and they're unimpressed with them is because there's a lot of winging going on with CMOs. And I'll give you a couple words CMOs will use. They'll say things like, look, it's going to take about 6 months for me to really show my value to the company. What? That's the last thing a CEO wants to hear. So you mean to tell me I'm paying you, let's just say $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of salary, forget about the bonus. It's going to take me 6 months to see the value in what you're doing. So you want me to spend $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 before I see if it's a good investment or not? I'm not wired that way, Mr. CMO. CEOs don't like that when you say, give me 6 months of spend without any kind of accountability of results in the first 30, 60, 90 days. Now, you may say that and say, but that's what it was when I was working for this $88 billion company. Great. Then go to another $88 billion company. That $200,000 is not a lot of money for them. Not a mid-size or a small size or a small business. Go back to the $84 billion company, but it's not going to work at a smaller business. So that's the part that the CMO has to manage expectations when coming to the company. Next one here. It's always complaining about budget. I need a bigger budget. I don't have enough budget. I wish I had a bigger budget. At the former company, I had a bigger budget. Was that discussed in the interview process? How much is your budget? What are you working with? Once you know what the budget is, you can't complain about it afterwards. If you said you can get results with this budget that you have, you can't come back and say, I could have given you better results with a bigger budget. Nope, that's the previous company. The next challenge is CMOs not winning their peers over. So as a CEO, you got CFO, CTO, CIOs, COOs, CMOs, you name it, right? Chief compliance officers. Everybody's talking to you, and they'll typically come to you with who they're impressed with, who they rely on that things get done, and who they're frustrated with. And as a CEO, you'll hear who people complain about the most, right? So let's just say it's a CMO in this case here, right? The CMO doesn't win people over. It's like, well, you don't understand. As a CEO, the CMOs and other people have to know you as a CEO are running 3 different political parties: Republicans, independents, and Democrats. Just like a president is a president to all three political parties, the CEO is a CEO to all different types of executives in your company. One of them is people that have been around the longest. One of them is people that have been around the shortest. And the ones in the middle are the ones that have been around half, and they're kind of independent in the opinions that they make. But these guys will come and say, this guy's CMO doesn't do nothing. He always tells me email, doesn't get it done. I don't see any results. What was the budget on? Why does he get a bigger budget than we do? Why is he always asking for a big budget? You're sitting in a room and everybody's looking at the budget. So you gave this much of an approval to the CMO's budget, and he gave you nothing back. The ROAS is that, and yet you gave me only this much of a budget and I made you 9 times the amount. Why the hell are you not giving me a bigger budget? By the way, they have a great point. Great CMOs sit there and say, no. You gave me $2.8 million budget. I got you $17 million. I'm getting you return. Everybody else sits there and then great CMOs say what? I made you this much money. I made this department this. I did this for this. And everybody's like, yeah, he's kind of right. We like him a lot. But those are the rare CMOs that make everybody's lives better. For the most part, the CMOs that don't make it, they don't win their friends over, typically with results. Next thing is CMOs are great storytellers, right? Ideas, and so they interview very well. So in an interview, if you're interviewing a CMO, you're almost like watching a freaking insane movie. Oh my God, I just came out of this interview. This guy was like, we're going to make the greatest ad of all time. Like, do you realize this guy's going to make the next Just Do It ad? He's going to make that Apple campaign that took Apple to the Macintosh, Oh, this is ridiculous. So the energy you get from a CMO in an interview, they interview so well. But CMOs, half the battle is the following. It's like going on a date and you're a playboy. And you want to close the person you're on a date with, but you kind of want to have a wife and kids, but you can't get rid of your playboy status, right? And you sell yourself so well, and they buy in, and you come in, and you're not a small business owner CMO, or you're not a big company CMO, or the 3 different types of CMOs. Your strength, what you're typically good at, doesn't match what the company is looking for. There's 3 different types of CMOs. Let me read them to you. First one is the enterprise wide P&L role. These are the guys that deliver profitable growth by designing strategy and overseeing commercialization, responsible for innovation, product design, sales, distribution, pricing, and marketing communications. That is 23% of CMOs. Second type of CMO is the strategy role. This is good for bigger companies. Designs growth strategy, responsible for innovation, customer insights, and analysis, and product design. That's 31% of CMOs. Then there's the 46%. Ready? Commercialization role. Spurs sales through marketing communication, responsible for advertising, digital content, social media, promotions, and events. So let's just say the company is looking for commercialization type, but you're the enterprise. You're not a match. Let's say you are a strategy role, but you're going to a place that needs somebody to roll up their sleeves and you're not a match. Don't sell yourself to that company. It's not going to work out. Say I'm on a date, and if Jen would tell me my dream man is somebody who's a handyman like my dad, I would say, my dad is the greatest handyman of all time, but that genetic and strength was never passed down to his son, and he's only got one son. If you expect me to be a good handyman, I'm not a handyman when it comes on to fixing the house. But if you want a leader that's going to get to work and drive the family and have our dreams become a reality, I'm that husband. You good with that? I'm not going to mismanage it. So CMOs sometimes oversell themselves with areas that they're not good at just because they need that job at that moment and ends up becoming a failure. This next one's a tough one, CMO, but you gotta listen to this one here. Sometimes CMOs have a group of 5 people. You got a team, right? And say you come up with a campaign and this one guy comes up with a great idea and they tell you, and me, the CEO, I'm not gonna see the fact that they came up with the idea because they report to you. But when we have the meeting and I see the idea, I'm like, wow, what a freaking great idea. You never tell me that he did it. So then in the next meeting in front of 200-300 employees, I recognize the CMO for coming up with the idea. That person that reported to you that came up with the entire idea, that told you about it, sits in a meeting and not once got recognized about it. So you know what happens the next time? Next time they're not going to come up with good ideas for you because you never give them credit. The bad, small thinking, insecure CMOs don't give credit to people on their teams that deliver good ideas. Your job half the time is to make sure you have 100% loyalty of your team by giving credit to the people that come up with ideas. You not doing that gets your team to go like this. I'm not giving you good ideas again. CEOs now want to talk to you because you also make some mistakes, because I'm a CEO, I understand. Right before this, everybody's asking me questions about how successful we've been hiring CMOs. And I said, listen, at the end of the day, who gets credit for the failure of a relationship not working out? The CEO. Like, imagine if you date a girl, the marriage doesn't work yet. It's the girl's fault. It's the girl. How much of that is yours? You could have chosen another girl. You could have chosen another guy. So CEOs, we get the responsibility of choosing who we hire and say yes to. So we have to be better at hiring. Let me give you based on some of the mistakes I've made. Number 1, don't hire based on an incredible resume. A resume will come and be like, Did you know this guy's from Harvard? Wow. Did you know this guy went to Yale? Did you know this guy went to Wharton Business School? Did you know this? That's pretty impressive. Did you know he worked for, this such and such company? Did you know they worked at Apple? Did you know? So you're impressed by this fat resume. But that resume doesn't give you the CMO that you're looking for. You may be dealing with a smaller budget. I hired a guy one time. I'm sitting down interviewing him. I'm at Catch Restaurant in Beverly Hills. This is the place where all the celebrities go to. And I sit down and I interview this guy. Freaking love this. By the way, if you're watching this, you know who you are. I won't give you the whole name. You know who you are. I loved interviewing you. Let me tell you why. We sit across from each other. We're having dinner. 3 hours. We had a phenomenal time. We would work very well together. But he said to me, Pat, you want to get into the entertainment business and doing movies? Yes. You sure? Yes. I'm going to put a budget for you of what I need first year and second year and third year. Tell me if you can do that. Because I'm going to go on a 15-year run. And this guy has a resume. You know who this guy is, by the way, just so everybody. You know what shows he's done. And one of them was #1 for many. You know exactly who he is because he's also all over the place. So I said, what is it? He said, this is what I need. I need $2.9 million my first year. I need nearly $10 million my second year. I need $20 million my third year. If you can't give that to me, even if you give me the salary, I don't want to come and waste 3 years of my life working for you because I want to do this the next 3 years. I don't need the money. I've made a lot of good choices in my lifetime. I want to make a big impact. If you can approve this budget for me next 3 years, I'm all in. We sat there. We had a great conversation. I said, right now my priority is beddavidconsulting.com. We run a consulting firm with 5,000 clients. We do engagements from 60 plus countries. You can go to beddavid.com and learn more about it. I said, right now, my priority is Manek, PBD podcast, and some of the things that we're doing behind closed doors. I still haven't bought my property, my campus to build the entire community. I said, let's follow up 12, 24, 36 months from now. Do you know that conversation allowed me to understand what he wants and expects and what I do? Two professionals walked away, shook hands, gave each other a hug, laughed our asses off, had great food, but we did not do business together at that time. Will we in a year, 2 years, 3 years? If he's a free agent and we get to the point of getting into the movies, he's going to be the first guy I make a phone call to because I love the way he interviewed and he sold himself of who he is. And I said, I can't afford to have you somebody right next. I can't give you the budget you need today. CEOs need to do that more often. CEOs, when you're interviewing a CMO, ask them. So for example, if you already have an existing team that's going to report to them, so you got a team of 5 to 7, ask the CMO how big of a team they have. Did they have an email marketing team? Did they have a social media team? Did they have a digital team? Did they have an ad buying agency? Did they have a creative team? Did they have a creative director? How many creative directors did they have? I literally, when I hired my chief HR officer, I gave him a marker, RJ, who's upstairs right now, said, write down the entire team. He wrote the entire team down. I said, how many reported to you? Who did you report to? Who were your sidelines? Who failed? Give a score on what department worked, what department didn't work at Uber, at Chevron, at this. He's giving me all this intel that we're going through, right? We interviewed him 7 times in the span of 2 weeks before we hired him. But then after listening to him, I said, I don't think you're the right fit. He said, let me come back and tell you why I am. Great, give it to me. I still am not convinced there. I want you to be able to sell the executives that are going to be your peers you're working with. You're the HR officer for them. I want to know how they feel about it. Are you comfortable coming to our cigar lounge and giving a 3-hour presentation, 1-hour presentation, 2 hours of Q&A? Let them grill you. I'm sitting on the sidelines. I'm just watching the exchange. He says, I'm totally open to it. Puts a presentation, comes down, presents it, everybody watches him. Then we do another interview. Then we invite him back with his wife to see how it's going to work with his wife because it was a long drive, 90 minutes away. Comes with his wife. We sit down. All of us bring our spouses. We all have dinner together. Values, principles. This is who we are. Here's what we talk about. This is a pretty loud company. We'll talk business, politics. We're comfortable. Are you okay with this? Yes. Now they're 2 miles away from here, working here. The relationship is good. We went from when he got hired, I don't know how many employees we had just 6 months ago, 50 employees. We're at 115 employees right now, right? But that's the question. So same thing with CMO. Can you draw out your team of who reports to you, how many years they've been, who's the best people they've had, what are your expertise with, how good are you at email, Let him tell you. And then you may say, you ever work with a team where you went from 0 to a team of 10 people? Because we don't have a big team right now. Tell them, how would you work with a budget of this much money? Well, I would do this, and that. How many people would you hire with this? Who would you bring? Who would you bring from your previous or this or that or this person? Here's what I would need. Now, what was your budget where you worked at? I had a $22 million budget. One of the guys I sat down with yesterday, had lunch with, how much was your ad budget you worked for XYZ company? $150 million. We don't have that kind of a budget right now. I said, how are you going to work with our budget? I have no problem with that. He's breaking it. New guy we just hired that's been with us for 2 weeks. Let them explain to you and then see if it's a match or not based on their background. If you're a founder, I'm a founder. I'm not a CEO of a Fortune 500 company that comes in and golfs twice a week and leaves on Fridays and has a 30-day urlaub during the summer, like you take a 30-day vacation. I'm not that guy, right? So I'm a founder. You ever worked with a founder before? Tell me the founder you work with. If you're a CEO, tell me what CEOs you work with. Which ones worked out well, which ones didn't work out well. Why is that? Not all of us have a good relationship with everybody we ever report to. Which one didn't work out for you and who does? What relationships do you typically have conflicts with? Which ones do you not? Those are some of the questions you need to ask the CMO prior to making an offer to them. Next, whatever you have as a comp will dictate the behavior of the CMO. Meaning, if your comp is a general comp, you're allowing the CMO to kind of wing it. But if your comp is tied to, you know what, at my previous company, they paid me $300,000. Really? Yeah, what was your bonus? 20%. Okay. Would you be willing to take a $250,000 salary, a $50,000 dip, but you get a 50% bonus? See how that works out? Because if he says, yeah, absolutely, and a 50% bonus is predicated based on 5 markers. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I'm good. Well, not really. I still have my bills to pay, my family, and all this other stuff. That will kind of tell you if he's more of a CMO or if he's more somebody that's going to be working on data, growth, numbers, revenue. You can actually track that part. So the way you set up the comp will dictate whether this CMO will work for your company or not, and whether they're going to end up failing or not, simply based on how you set up your comp structure with the CMO you're hiring. Next, let's just say you have a team of 7 people already in the marketing team, 3 of them that are leaders that are going to report to the CMO directly. Guess what? Have the CMO come to the office or Zoom. Have those 3 people that will be reporting to the CMOs interview their boss. And you have to make sure these are mature, reasonable people that are not going to be like, I don't want anybody. I think I'm the person that should become a CMO now. You don't want those people in the interview because all they're going to say bad things about them. You want somebody that's mature that can give a reasonable to say, you realize we're hiring your boss, right? Yeah. Are you okay with that? Absolutely. You realize we're hiring a boss. Yeah, but listen, I think I'm going to do a better job. That person doesn't need to interview them. You want people that are reasonable. Then they sit down with them. And if you're able to sit in there, great. If not, have the CHR or your HR person sit there or your another person, assistant sit there to tell you how the questions were. So you can kind of follow up in recording, conversation, all of that. You'll obviously say, this is being recorded so the boss can see it as well. And then they'll give you a report. I really like this one more than this one. Why? Let me tell you why. Remember when we had XYZ and didn't work out? This person could work out well because of da-da-da-da. Got it. Perfect. Then if you end up choosing the person you're hiring, you can also bring back to the team and say, you also agree that was your favorite candidate. Yes. So you can't come back and say, I told you don't hire that person. Do you see how that works out? You're solving future problems that could arise because they also agreed that they wanted that person as their boss. And this is why a lot of CMOs don't want to be CMOs today. They want to be CGOs, CROs, or CSOs. Let me tell you, CGO, Chief Growth Officer. I want to get paid based on growing the company. No problem. I like data. It's specific to revenue and EBITDA. Profit? Great. Chief Revenue Officer. I want to be tied to the revenue. Fine. Chief Sales Officer. Sometimes marketers realize there's more money in sales. They want to go to Chief Sales Officer. You have to kind of ask them, have you ever been a salesperson? Because sometimes marketing thinks like in a different way. They see butterflies. Sales guys see commission, right? Steve Jobs, was he a CMO? Was there a CSO? Was he a marketing guy? Was he a sales guy? Or was he a unicorn? A little bit of both, right? He was a boss, marketing guy, and a sales guy. Little left brain, little right brain, little center brain, whatever you want to put it. Jobs had a little bit of everything. That's not everybody though. So that's why when you're having the conversations with them, you can bring this up and say, you know what, Mr. CMO, yeah, how do you feel about the fact that 80% of CEOs don't trust CMOs? Why do you think that is? Hey, why do you think is the fact that the life expectancy of, ask them these questions and see what they tell you. Why do you think so many companies are getting rid of hiring CMOs such as XYZ? Hey, why do you think, and let's see how they get rattled or offended or any of that stuff, and then bring all these issues up to them and they'll tell you, you know what? I actually agree with that. I would like to be judged for growth, revenue, or sales. No problem. Now we're doing making progress on the interview. But that's the challenge that both CMOs and CEOs make when looking to hire a company and looking to join a company. So if you want everything I covered in a PDF format, text the word CMO to 310-340-1132. Again, text the word CMO to 310-340-1132. And if you have any direct questions for me, you want to ask me questions about what I covered in this video, download the app Menek, ask me any questions you may have about what I discussed in this video, and I will respond back to you in audio, typically within 24 hours. That's how I stay in contact with many people that we consult for, but it usually starts off with Menek. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch another one, I did a video titled 15 Marketing Campaigns That Made $1 billion for the company, and so can you. If you've never seen it, click here to watch the video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.